Gerry, back in Canada. We had a little bit of a change up here. I know we're
Yeah.
going to be obviously in Silicon Valley, but we did this purposefully. We're up here in Canada, thanks to Pillow and Tea, thanks to Madhu Sante for hosting, and of course, all logistics. Again, pillowandtea.com. Go check them out. But you know, when you go to Silicon Valley, you got to be ready. You got to have your pitch decks ready. You got to do your research. And you know what? We have a lot of companies, including Thinklin, that are getting to that point. We've shown throughout um, MGSN, on Thinklin, on demos at SKJ Juris, this business development pathway, and how it's a long process, and you got to be patient with it. And I think for us, this is a big reason why we're in Canada. We're reframing it. We're here in Canada. We're doing more workshops to continue that development, so we can really be ready when we go and launch over there in Silicon Valley.
Listen, Mac, this is a great lesson for all the entrepreneurs out there and the followers at MGSN, which you graciously allowed them to cover this, even though this is a bit of a restart for you guys. So let's give a little bit of color to this. I see MGSN has put on both its media site and on its social media sites some snippets that were at the start of the summer, right? We're at the last, I guess, week and a half of summer. Right. And at the start of the summer, we had the work camps that were preparing for the autumn trip of the demo series in Silicon Valley. And that was, okay, we were showing people who are thinking about entrepreneurship, who have startups, that you want, if you're at a stage where you want to explore financial opportunities through the equity acquisitions that Silicon Valley is good for, or frankly, even some convertible debt instruments, then you want to have a path to profit. You want to be able to show a structure that is resilient. And that was a common theme that was stressed at Thinklin Demo Euro 2024, particularly in Paris. That was on there. What's interesting was we did the usual at the KLG incubator, on which many of our startup companies are members of. We did the Q4 studies and analysis, and because obviously we were going to be investing into the Thinklin Demo Silicon Valley 2025. And then it became eminently clear. We held the meetings in the great Boston Tech, where you guys are rooted, where that magnificent campus is. And we held a meeting that we reserved the law firm reserved some rooms over at a big hotel over in Boston. And we made a decision that, hey, look, if we're not ready for prime time, because the bottom line with investors is they'll just blow you off. You'll go over there, you waste your time. We have some structural work that needs to be done. And there were also some very legitimate reasons between June, when we were in, June 15th, I believe, when we were in Canada, where the workshop was held. And it was preparation for what? Product developments. Now, a great product came out, which has been very, very successful. And that's the RFP. So what came out of the development meetings that were held up in the preparations here in Canada, where we hold boot camps. We also hold boot camps within Asia, in the Demo 2025 Asia. And we actually are, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the MGSN followers are going to get to see some of the product development boot camps that were held in some of the podcasts that were held. I believe that one of them is going to be debuting this week. Is this Friday?
Yeah. And I think, I'm glad you brought up, I mean, the whole concept of demos really is going to the workshop, getting together, being able to critique your products, being able to develop those service lines, product development. But I'm glad you brought up Demo 24, because the theme of that was resilience. And what we're dealing with right now kind of goes along with the resilience of bootstrapping, not wasting capital, expanding your runway and your pathway to going to the marketplace. Demo 25 over in Pune, India, we talked about this as well. That business development pathway, you got to be patient with it. And, before you go to investors, because when you talk about Silicon Valley, you're going to VCs, you got to present to them. You got to tell, investors, hey, this is what I've done. The nice thing about when we were over there in Pune, India, at Demo 25, was that we talked about, hey, this is where you know, the whole theme of that was strategic partnerships. And I think when you talk about that, you talk about the GCC and SKJ Juris, it's that you're able to scale your business, you're able to show already to the marketplace what is possible. And if you are able to then go to investors, show them your pitch deck, and not just say, hey, this is a great product, but hey, this is a great product. I actually scaled it within the GCC. The market proved that it's a valuable thing, that it's the value prop is correct, and that the market, also shows you that it all works. That's a huge thing to go to Silicon Valley. And I think this is something why we love these workshops up in Canada, is because we further explore and develop those things that is going to really fine tune everything, package it all really beautifully together before you make that pitch to the investor over there in Silicon Valley or the Alley in New York. So I think for everyone watching, it's really amazing to see all the way back to Demo24, that resilience theme that we had in Demo24 over there in Paris in Europe, the strategic partnership theme over in Demo25 over in Pune, India. And now you're seeing at the end of 25, that continuation of product development here in Canada to eventually go, right? Whether it's the end of this year or Demo26, making that move for all of our companies to make that pitch when the right time comes. Because again, you can't just force it. You got to make sure that not only you're set right in the marketplace, but you're set right with all of your partners involved. And that, again, that resiliency, going back all the way to 24, you're not wasting money, you're bootstrapping, you're doing it the right way. And that's what we're all about here at Thinkland and MGSN.
It's an interesting point, because you see, I want to talk about workshops and the effective use that Thinkland has for workshops. I've attended workshops over the last 4 decades, and one of the most effective I can't even tell you how many I've attended. And they're usually designed for a number of reasons. You want to gain some intelligence, you want to gain some skill sets, or you want to address some issues that you're having in your chosen marketplace. And in this particular case, if you look at for me, the most effective use of an investor's money, the most effective use is recognizing when something's not working and then making a change.
Yeah.
So even though it is late summer down in the States, here is a very fall-like atmosphere up here in Canada.
Yes.
And it's good to do a restart. Now, when we last left everybody with the workshop that was held in a different part of Canada during the summer, we were up in the Laurentian Mountains. The key that was deliverables. So when you leave a workshop, you want a couple of things. You want to be able to say, okay, I'm not getting, because of the day in, day out grind, I'm not getting everything done with respect to my deliverables. Now you take and you put it into a workshop, and there's a great post that MGSN has with respect to workshops and how writers use workshops in order to sort of change the scenery. And it's important to change the scenery because now we got up here a couple of days ago, and we've been working nonstop. And the beauty on this is we're attacking some of the deliverables that we couldn't get done from the time that we closed the workshop in June till now. And there were very good reasons for this. And you guys out there, when you're building your companies, you're going to get really bad days, and you're not going to get your deliverables done. And it's real important for you not to get down. Now, you might not be able to function when you're in your home office or even in a beautiful campus like shops you guys have, because then there's the day in, day out running of the business. Bills still have to be paid. Vendors have to be paid. Now, when you take a weekend like we did it, and it's add another extra day to the weekend to do a boot camp so we can restart and figure out how we're going to get these deliverables done under duress. Because the truth is, you're going to have situations that you didn't plan for. That's what life is. I didn't start this fire. It was always burning since the world was turning. I'm just telling you the truth here. You're going to have your day in, day out grind. That's one thing.
Yeah.
That can thwart innovation. That can definitely thwart it because it's almost like the old Dunkin' Donuts commercial. You're getting up, it's time to make the donuts. You're getting up, it's time to make the donuts. So that day in and day out grind can be a dulling effect on innovation. Another component to it is just the fact of the matter is you're going to run into some issues, personal issues, family issues, life issues that are going to impede. And then when it's tough to get into the office, and then there's a stack of bills up to here, there's vendors who aren't performing there, and the innovation gets pushed to the side. And that's what Thinkland came up with when we were at our meetings in Boston. And you're going to see a nice post there because you get to see actually Mac packing up the car with all the equipment and all of the materials that we needed in order for us to sit down and redraft some deliverables under duress. And of course, that means financing. You know, that was the whole point of Silicon Valley financing. Now, what do they want in Silicon Valley? They want to see a path to profit, great ideas. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. You know, that ship sailed a long time ago. Do you have a business model that addresses a business need? Do you have a path to profit? And by the way, who are your competitors? How are you different from your competitors? And that's what you need to sort of present. And that's what we need to work on. And that's why coming up here when, you know, Matt could be like any other young innovative and startup entrepreneur, and you could say, "Oh my God, I really wanted to get into that second, at least get me to A round. You know, I want to do this." But he said, "I'll tell you what, we're here. You can see how busy we were. We visited the campus, and yes, you know, the stack of bills are here, the vendors are there, the deliverables are there, and this was." He said, "Why don't we do another cost-effective?" He said, "I'll reach out to Pillow and Tea. And I'll make sure that we can get some really cost-effective rooms." Now, here we are in Shea Smith. We've been here before. Our fellow followers out there. Yes, right here.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the announcement of the launch of Pillow and Tea was leaked out here in Shea Smith.
And then look at how much they've grown over
Oh, my goodness gracious, glory.
Before we get into Pillow and Tea, I just want to, on your note, Jerry, I think this is super important for our followers to understand. We're going to be very transparent here. I think the big reason for me, and why I think we weren't ready to go to Silicon Valley, even for Thinkland, is that if you're not able to scale sustainably, if you're not able to go to market and do your deliverables and make sure everything's running efficiently, you're not ready for Silicon Valley. And because if people think, "Oh, I just got to go to Silicon Valley and get millions of dollars, get my Series A, and all money's going to solve my problems," money's going to make your problems even harder. If you're not ready, if you don't know where you're scaling or what you need to scale efficiently, because they'll throw you all these millions of dollars and they'll expect you to grow at that pace. Your company might be done in a couple months.
Oh, very true.
So like the big thing with Thinkland and a lot of the companies that we work with is like, hey, we got some work to do still. And this is the great thing about the workshops. We got to critique more. We clearly aren't there yet. There's some deliverables we need to figure out, with some efficiencies we need to do with this. There's clearly a scalability that we need to work with the GCC over in India and work out some of these things before we go to Silicon Valley, so we can go in there confidently saying, "Hey, we had these issues, and look, we solved them." That's what investors want to see. They want to see, when we give you this money, are you going to be able to spend it efficiently? Are you going to be able to solve these issues? Because issues are going to come up. I think that's a strong position to go in when you're pitching to investors. And I think for Thinkland, that's kind of what we're trying to show here with these workshops is sometimes you got to take a step back to really take 2 steps forward. And I think that's where we're at. And I think our companies have bought into that because, again, we're all about doing this sustainably. And then, like you said, life happens. And if things are shaken up, you got to solve them. You know, money's not going to solve that problem. What it's actually a good lesson and a good thing for your company if you are squeezed a little bit and you got to bootstrap, because if you can do it that way, well, then when your investor comes in with all this money, well, then you're really going to be like able to grow. So I think that's the good learning point for all these companies that we're working with. And yeah, Pillow and Tea is a great example of that, how they've been able to scale and grow their business they're probably the ones that are most ready to go to Silicon Valley. But again, it's all every company's different, and you gotta do it the right way, and you gotta have all the people growing together, and then you gotta actually show that growth before you go to Silicon Valley. And I think that's what we're focused on.
Well, think of it. Let's think of it. We're having a meeting on Q4. We're targeting for Silicon Valley 2025 Thinkland demo, and then the issue came up. Well, we're not ready. We some of the deliverables we wanted to get done since June weren't done, weren't completed, or maybe some of them are inapplicable based on changing market conditions.
Right.
And now the real question come down to is okay. Well, it'd be really easy for investors to say, well, you guys get this done, or else, what do you want me to do? But then, when you say, well, you want to go for another workshop. We did a workshop in June. He said, yeah, but guess what? When we started testing those deliverables, it looked like we were just going to need some more time. I said, okay, well then, can we do this on your beautiful campus? He said, yeah, sure we could. But you know what that's like? Yeah. Hey, Mac, I got this here. I got that. Here's another bill. Oh, wait a minute. The taxes are due. This, that, and the other thing. So I said, it does make sense. And certainly Pillow and Tea can get it cost effective. Now, this is very important. Very important. I want everybody out there in MGS land. And by the way, I want to tell you one thing. Let's concentrate on a great success point, because I want those people who now follow the product that was developed by Max Digital Development. It's a beautiful product called the RFP, and it's averaging about 50 to 60, and at some point in time, 70,000 viewers a week. That's on, and I think it's real important that we recognize that was a product that was developed in the June boot camp, and now it is a hot market product. And by the way, not for nothing, I repost what they do on, and I put out if I'm in it, of course. I put it out there because I am, and full disclosure, there's a publishing house that you guys just created, a beautiful digital publishing house, and I am an author that is writing my legacy as a lawyer in New York City and as a global entrepreneur. And I have a book that I've been working on, and the RFP covers what's called the Author's Corner. And that has been very well received. You have a global array of lawyers who have varied experiences, and particularly in the hot button issue, AI. Now, one of the things that came up is, are we ready? Are we ready for the derivative products on AI? I said, okay, well, what's the solution? This is what we had in that big hotel meeting. So, well, I think we should go back to Canada because we'll be able to spend the time there. And he said, but guess what? I'm going to conserve your money. I'm going to conserve your money. I said, we're not going to rent out all the stuff that you guys like. He said, lawyers like nice, fancy hotels. We said, we won't retain out a studio. But for this, he said, let's go back to Shea Smith. This is in the Limoilou section of Quebec City.
Oh, so great.
And I've been coming to Canada all my life, well, not all my life, but a significant portion of it. And I didn't know about this section. And I've been to Quebec City hundreds of times, and I didn't know about this section. This is in a university part of the city.
Great student haven here.
And you got a lot of young entrepreneurs. They have a great entrepreneurial ecosystem in Quebec. And one of the things that Pillow and Tea always stresses is they bring their partner in for the wellness sector, and that's Madhu Sante, so that there is a wellness break. So you know what I thought was great? We were like stressed out. We wanted to get these things done. I had a tremendous legal issues I was dealing with back in New York. What did they put together? They put together this health walk through a beautiful park here in Limoilou.
Absolutely beautiful.
I never saw such a beautiful park. I have pictures, and you know what, guys? What's going to be up? We're going to post some of the fall comes early up here. Some of the nice fall shots. But that health walk, I think we walked about 5 miles, right, on the health walk.
Perfect example of why these demos and these workshops are amazing, because Pillow and Tea reached out to our other company and other strategic partner, Madhu Sante, who's in health and wellness up here in Canada. They were able to put on this amazing health walk here. It really, again, not only helped the physical activity of this whole trip, but again, it got the brain juices flowing, the ideas going, and again, continuation of the product development. And I think for us especially, I think the biggest theme I've gotten the last few days up in this workshop is it's a fine balance, right? It's you got to be patient, especially with digital development or marketing. You got to be patient because you're growing a community, and if you want to get that organic growth, you want to start, producing sales. It does take a little bit of time to grow an authentic community. We've seen that with Madusante, we've seen that with Thinklin, we've seen that with MGSN and BCFF. But then there does come a time where you do got to go to market and you do got to generate sales. So I think a good example of that is we've been developing a lot of these other products, but the fan-based marketing with BC football fans, you know, that's a perfect example of patience, growing that community organically, but also there does come a time where you do need to figure a way to monetize that, because if you're investing so much time, at a certain point it's gotta show you, it's gotta show you numbers at the end of the day. That's a great example where we finally were able to push it out this year to like start monetizing, whether that's with merchandise, whether that's with podcasts, whether that's with advertisements, whether that's with, again, people trying to, sponsor some of the content that we're putting out to fans. I think that's the key. It's like finding that balance, and that's what workshops really are great with. Because if you're just going along, it's hard to find that fine tune. But if you have someone pushing against you and kind of critiquing what you're doing, then you're able to find that balance a little bit better there to really get that growth to be sustainable and to scale. And I think that's the exciting thing about again these workshops that we do and these demos that we do. And so just super excited about that here in Canada. And again, shout out to Pillow and Tea for making this all happen, because without them, I don't think we wouldn't be able to find that balance in that rhythm.
Well, I mean, when you have a travel tech company that's really skilled and they're smart enough to do a strategic partnership with a company like Madusante, who is well known up here. This is their neck of the woods. Their main office is out in a very, very beautiful.
They've hosted us up here so many times. It's been fantastic.
So, and of course, that's cost saving for us, the investors who put money into these companies. So that's a great move. But I think one thing you mentioned, BCFF. I think what is really important is when we talk about resilience, especially for people who put so much passion into their project, young people, or frankly, people who are just starting out and maybe they're retired and they put so much into it and they get a little disappointed. So there was an issue with a social media company, I'm not going to name any names now, but every dog has his day. So all of a sudden, all the hard work that was put in to build a base of over 30,000 followers was derailed because of an improper maintenance of a social media account. All right, now, instead of going and crying, you went out and you took some new products, you put them out there to try to regain. Now, I want to say something. Mac is also an author in his own right, and he writes articles. And one of the things that we decided to look at, and then MGSN picked it up, was that when you do your podcast, there's a lot of skills that go beyond fan-first media. Now, fan-first media, for those of you out there who aren't familiar with the sports and entertainment sector, despite the fact that Mac is an entrepreneur in the digital development space, he's also a leading entrepreneur in the fan-first media. Fan-first media is, you know what, and I'm a big sports fan. And at the end of the day, I like some niche portions of the sports. I have my particular teams I like, and I don't have the time for the large corporate medias who give you, okay, here's 15 minutes for you, but we got to move on. I get that. That's their model. The fan-first media is different. They'll zero in on that particular aspect that you really thrive on, and they'll give you that content they have. Now, in Mac's case, the Boston College community, particularly around the football program, has a very, very dedicated fan base. That means you have a brand, and you have a community around that brand. Now, Mac is also a writer, and a very prolific writer. And he wrote an article as the new football season was starting, and over 500,000 people viewed that article. Remarkable. By the way, not for nothing, Pillow and Tea's article debuted, I believe, was on MGSN, and that got almost 250,000 on their article, which captured the wonderful demo in Europe 2024. So the point that I'm just trying to say is resilience. One of the things that are taught in the incubator is something that you are always, I can't think of anybody who got more body slammed than you, or frankly, even Pillow and Tea over these last couple of, I guess, months, right? And that all happened after the plan for the deliverables. Now, the point is, some of the deliverables that we planned on and invested in are not ready for Silicon Valley. But I'll tell you what is ready that's out there. If you are in the Boston area and you don't jump on these guys while you can, where it's at the ground floor, the BCFF as sponsors, that's up to you. That's a big failing point on your part. The dedicated fan base around that brand is so intense. And the fact that these guys are writing articles and getting 500,000 people looking at the articles, you know what? I hope you don't take them up on it, because I have some investors I want to put into this, and I certainly think the affiliated marketing platform is going to be a much more lucrative thing than sponsors. So it's up to you guys out there. You know, get in while you can, or arrivederci Roma.
Yeah. We really appreciate the shout out, my friend, because I think for whether it's Eagles Daily or BCFootballFans.com, even MGSN.net, we were, with Pillow and Tea, is that, we're putting out these articles, but again, it's about finding your niche community, growing that authentic community, but then also there's this incredible thing happening in sports, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, where there's journalists, there's the traditional media, and then you have the fan-based media, which I think is a lot more direct to the people. So we've, again, invested in capturing content and publishing content that is for the people and by the people. And it's really about, hey, we're capturing fan con, we're capturing what fans want to talk about, we're writing articles, we're publishing journalistic articles on this stuff to get the fan to come along, and because that's where everything's going right now. And you're seeing this amazing growth, whether it's with the BCFF or even on MGSN.net. And I think that's just, it's an incredible, again, take on the resiliency there. Because when you talk about these social media companies, we fully pivoted to these new, these new social platforms like Instagram and TikTok that are very video forward. And you're seeing this. That is the thing that is direct to the people as not the most, is that when people are scrolling and they see these authentic videos, that's what people want to see. And I think that flows, again, from this resiliency, looking at the marketplace, because you don't got to go to an investor to put your product out there. You can put it to the market yourself. And I think that's what we're doing with our publishing house, is that we're taking this media, we're going direct to the people and giving them exactly what they want. And we're seeing amazing feedback from the marketplace. And I think it's a really exciting time right now. And again, when you talk about product development, because this has been so successful, Thinkland as a company has really pivoted towards media, whether it's the Global Creative Center, to really, again, output more content much as possible, video content, fan-based content, people direct content, because that's where everything's moving. And it's a really exciting time in this media space, because it's flowing, but you can do it so authentically, and you don't need anything. You just need a phone, and you need people, and you need an authentic audience, and you can really capture it in real time every day. And it's really exciting time right now.
Again, for all you guys people who are in that Boston area, or frankly, anybody who is in any sort of global area, one of the things that's interesting is that if you look at the analytics of the viewership, the hottest consumer markets right now, and also that's projected for the next 10 to 15 years, is going to be in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. And it's interesting the amount of followers that you get out of India, and from entrepreneurs, and in Nairobi, Kenya. And the reason for that is, if you're an entrepreneur, you want to study what they're doing in this fan-first media. So I guarantee there's probably not a whole lot of people who are watching in India or in Kenya who are Boston College football fans. Not the point. What those articles and those posts in the social media on the MGSN site, what I've been able to view, on that is that the entrepreneurs in Nairobi, Kenya, and in all across India are looking at the strategies, the strategic development, and the way that Mac and his team brought a concept. So concept generation, the very first part of it, of coming up with a startup,
And
building a startup, melding it into a community around the brand, and then giving that community what they wanted. So during the summer, Mac, despite all of his work, was out on the field getting fresh primary market intelligence. That's what we teach. We teach entrepreneurs. You need to not just sit at a computer and get secondary market intelligence. Anybody with a brain and fingers will get you that. What you need is primary market intelligence. You need to get into that marketplace and you need to gather your own intelligence that's just yours. And you meld that in, or you differentiate it with secondary market intelligence, which is what you can get on internet research. And what you'll see, and what I think resonates very well with those hardworking entrepreneurs in Nairobi, those hardworking entrepreneurs in Mumbai, is that they see, okay, this is how I get market intelligence. Even though I am not really a BC a football fan, I'm seeing what Mac did. He went out there, he got fresh content that was not available on corporate media and frankly wasn't available on other media sites, and it resonated with him. The methodology of doing due diligence, obtaining primary market intelligence, that's what you get out of watching those football videos that are coming out and articles that are being written by Mac. And as a matter of fact, tonight, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I overheard this at lunchtime with the other people that we brought out here to the workshop from the incubator companies, that you got a big night tonight, don't you?
yeah, actually, the team, of course, the BCFF covers the BC football team, is out in Palo Alto, and actually they're taking
Isn't
on
that
Stanford.
ironic?
Yeah, they're taking on Stanford, so we'll be covering that game remotely, of course, and I think it'll be a really exciting time for them. But I think that's such a great point, Jerry, though, when you brought it up, is concept development. I think the greatest thing about this podcast and people that follow MGSN.net is that we've shown repeatedly with multiple different companies how you go from concept generation, gathering that intelligence, going to product development, then going to the marketing piece, the digital development piece, publishing that, growing a community, and then actually going to the marketplace. We've shown how this can do, and BCFF is one of the prime examples of, hey, this can translate. It doesn't have to be college football. It could be soccer. It could be lacrosse. It could be a sport. It doesn't even have to be a sport, but it translates. Find your niche market, grow that community, get good digital developers to publish your work, get it to the marketplace, and then you can monetize. Like, this is something that we can do. And the nice thing for all our followers is, again, we always say, reach out, go to thinkland.com, reach out to us, because we have all these amazing concepts, but they're not just concepts anymore. We've shown throughout the past 3 years, as Thinkland developed, we've gone from concept development. We've shown how to grow that market. We've shown how to critique it. We've shown how to grow communities to market those products and services to. And then we've gotten sales from it. And I think for people that are, whether it's you're interested in fan-based media, whether you're interested in starting a travel company or a health and wellness company, or you're a lawyer, you're a solopreneur, you're an entrepreneur, reach out to us. You have an idea. We're going to help you develop that. We're going to help you bring that to the marketplace, whether that's digitally, whether that's in person. And I think that's what's exciting right now. I mean, this is why Thinkland got into this field of digital development. And I think for us, it's really exciting how far we've seen a lot of these companies that we've been working with for a long time and partnering with, where they are right now. And we're at we're not there yet. We're not Silicon Valley yet, but it's amazing to see how far we've come all the way from concept development.
Oh, it's remarkable. And I think what's resonating with people outside the community of the BC football is they're seeing firsthand one of the things, right? So you're a solopreneur. Mac used that word. When BC football fans were started, he was the solopreneur on that. Then what he did is he said, I can leverage my connections and create strategic partnerships with people who are in the exact same space I'm in. What? That's counterintuitive. You're going to go out and help your competitor get strong. What Mac did, which was, and what his colleagues did on the podcast, was they spent time exchanging what again? Due diligence. Where am I going to be able to work with you? Is that going to harm my brand? How do I enhance my brand without harming your brand? And that, you guys, you get a phenomenal job ironing out all of those details and created a strategic partnership for this very successful podcast without harming your own product line, enhancing it. That is a fantastic utilization of a transaction called a strategic partnership. Strategic networking, that was part and parcel of one of the things we were teaching in France when we were during the demo 2024 with Station F. And we had said to when we were over speaking with the people over at Station F, we are definitely interested in bringing some of our work out of India and bringing that over to France. And guess what? Since we left, they have now started an India development program over in Station F. That's strategic networking. That's strategic partnership. That's not sitting at a computer. And don't get me wrong, there is a place for sitting at the computer and working here. You got to get those deliverables done, and secondary market intelligence will lead you to primary market intelligence. But you must go out and get that primary market intelligence like Mac did. And that's how you get hundreds of thousands of followers in Asia and Africa who do not really care about so much the football, but how did Mac get there? How did he get to that position? How did his fellow entrepreneurs come and form this very popular podcast? And by the way, it's not. It's if you're willing to work, there's a way. Now, I overheard this morning, so I hope I'm not talking out of school here. But when we were at breakfast at 6 in the morning, I heard that you were just going to get some sleep because you were working on the coverage that you're going to do tonight for the football team.
That's a long game. You know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a solopreneur, you gotta work. I mean, it's a 24/7. I mean, you might include those 3-4 hours that you get sleep in that because it's a hard thing. You gotta have the resilience. You gotta have that grit. You gotta have that drive. But you don't have to do it alone. And I think full transparency. I think you nailed our ideal customer profile, and that is solopreneurs and entrepreneurs and solo practitioners. These are the people that Thinkland works with directly, and it's about, okay, I'm a one guy or I have a small team. How do we go in there? We help strategically partner them with the right people within business to make it possible for them to be their own person and to be an individual in the marketplace, whether it's their service or their product. That's the key. That's something we did with BCFF. That's something we did with Madusante and T, Thinkland and MGSN. Solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, getting them the right network, like you mentioned, my friend, the right network, the right strategic partner, because when it's mutually beneficial, I mean, the amount of growth you can get, you can't do it alone. I know, a lot of the attractiveness to an entrepreneur is that you can be your own person, a solopreneur. You can make your own schedule, but at the end of the day, you got to find the right partner that allows you to continue doing what you do, because that's where you're going to really find growth and really scale your business. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've realized as an entrepreneur is that those strategic partners, if you find the right person or the right people, again, whether that's SKJ Juris over in Pune, India, man, that's where growth really takes off. And again, it takes due diligence, it takes patience, but if it's done the right way and you find that sustainable long-term partnership, anything's possible.
And that's a great point. And one of the things I think you excelled on, like a lot of people would say, "Oh God, you're back in Canada. You should have been in Silicon Valley." I mean, your team is going to be in Silicon Valley. But I think one of the things that you want to see with resilience, and that is something you can learn. It's something that's taught. You want to see that when the mentors, that's what we provide, mentorship, when they come in and say, "Look, you can't go to Silicon Valley. You're not ready for Silicon Valley." And we understand while some of these products are good products, but they need some development. We want to get to the point where you accept the critique. You don't have to adopt every part of it and say, you know what, you're right. I see this is here. That's resilience, because this is a setback, but the setbacks are also great opportunities for teaching and learning. So on that happy note, Mac, first off, I wish you the very best for what time? What time do you start covering the game?
It'll be a late night, and they're on the West Coast, but I mean, it's gonna this part of the game. Excited, you know, I'm a night owl already,
Right.
so it doesn't really affect me. But I just to wrap this up, I'd say this has been a fabulous workshop. I feel like this, you know, people might say this is a step back. I think it's a step forward here. You know, again, it's finding that balance. You don't want to go too forward because that could destroy you.
Absolutely.
You know, if you go forward ahead, it might be too much and it could take you out. So we're exactly where we want to be. And again, for people listening and people you know, following along, go start your startup.